GM. Welcome to Bitcoin 102K, Bonzi. There's some feedback. Yeah, there's some feedback. I can hear myself. Do you mind just going on mute for a second? Yeah, Bitcoin's at 102K. ETH NFTs are absolutely ripping. Podgy Penguins just flipped Bitcoin, allegedly speaking. And yet, the grails of them all, Bitcoin puppets and node monks and OMBs and quantum cats and every single other ordinal collection is lagging behind. I actually am like extremely optimistic in the catch-up trade here. I think that one, ordinals are great, NFTs are awesome, but ordinals are most definitely digital gold on the gold blockchain. So yeah, other than that, things to recap on. Obviously, we had Magic Eden do a very successful claim to most diamond holders. It's been awesome to see the price action on the token. I think, me personally, 500K market cap, like that seems pretty damn free. Jupiter, other marketplaces, they're all in the billions. I think Magic Eden has executed very well. I saw Chartfoo's tweet that the unclaimed amount is going to stakers. So long-term believers are definitely rewarded, and those who aren't paying attention to crypto, and unfortunately, they're left on the sidelines. So I'm sure there's going to be some people that are upset, but overall, it's going to go to the people that believe in Magic Eden the most, and I think that's the best way to distribute your token in most cases. The other part, Bonzi, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I think a lot of people were speculating that Magic Eden would be a much more significant stimulus all across the board for Bitcoin assets. To my surprise, we haven't necessarily seen that pan out to the degree that I think a lot of people were expecting. Wanted to hear if what your take there is. I, for one, reallocated a significant portion of my little stimmy, primarily because the Bitcoin ecosystem is what I know and love. But that doesn't mean I'm not optimistic in the token price. I'm just a little bit more optimistic in Bitcoin meme coins and Bitcoin JPEGs outperforming in this cycle. But yeah, Bunsey, thoughts there? The rotation hasn't been rotating, has it?
the turntables have turned. No, I think in hindsight, it's 2020. It's super easy to be like, yeah, that was just a narrative. And when things are that simple, people do to spin these narratives of this is why our ecosystem is going to pump. Let me tell you why. You can follow this line very easily.
I was the one spinning that narrative because I genuinely believed it. Like, I put my money where my mouth is. And,
it makes sense. It makes sense. But
yeah.
It's okay. From the perspective of Magic Eden rewarded Bitcoin users the most. Therefore, if people receive this, they're going to reallocate and distribute those funds into the Bitcoin ecosystem. I think the missing piece was, why would they do that?
Yeah, like why would they be bearish on ME is really simple. And obviously that's great. The fact that people are bullish on the token is good for that token's performance. So it's almost like you have a choice. You see these Bitcoin assets, they're not moving upwards. The Magic Eden token going to $8, $8.12. I gave away a laptop worth of pups on a bet that Chartfu and someone else, Jord, I think
Yeah,
what's
what's the backstory behind that? There has to be some type of funny joke because people are just like, yeah, I gave away a laptop worth. Like, what the fuck's going on there?
So the original tweet said if Magic Eden hits $6.90 for the meme in the next 24 hours, someone said they're going to give away a laptop. And then Chartfu reposted it, said he'd never done it before. And I don't know if he actually gave away a laptop, and I hope he did because it went all the way to $8.18. But I'm a man of my word, and I most definitely had quite a lot of DMs, and there's a couple people that had shown me that their laptops have died more recently, and there was only one that I was actually able to verify that this isn't just some old laptop that he smashed from 2007. So yeah, I tossed the cost of a brand new laptop for the guy in pups, and I told him I'm like, look, I don't expect anything from this. Like, you don't have to do any publicity. I'm not going to share this or anything like that. But Merry Christmas.
I'm not going to share any of that, but I'm going to talk about it on a space.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about. I'm not gonna say who it is.
I'm just
I'm not gonna
trolling.
give
No,
you the
that's dude. That's
TXI
so
name, but
goaded, dude. That's really cool. And it is trippy. I do like that because like sometimes we get lost in the sauce, and it is nice to have an item that we all have as like a reference point. Like a laptop is a significant purchase, and sometimes we throw around a few $1,000s in these trades and just oh whatever. But it's I like the comparison. But back to the Magic Eden token and Bitcoin is it we like to want it to make sense, but the Magic Eden token, I think people are holding on to it. I think people are, and if there was, it's hard for a team to like give exact details of like how to what to do with the assets. I think people are like maybe thinking, hey, the Bitcoin stuff is done. Like the people that were early adopters are the only ones that are going to be rewarded. Where I don't think that's the case. I think continue users of the platform, specifically if they're revenue generating, is going to play another role in some type of multiplier or something like that. That's my hunch. And I think once, if that ever gets confirmed, we'll see more activity based on that thesis go into the Bitcoin ecosystem. But right now, I think people are leaning deeper into the Jupiter, the hyper token type of acceleration. And I think they're holding to see if that narrative plays out more.
absolutely, absolutely. It's kudos to Magic Eden for timing their launch with the perfect reference point. Like hype, obviously, air like claim dropped, airdrop, whatever you want to call it, to early users. And I think it was originally at $3 or something like that. And right now I'm looking at it, it's like $18.50. That's not a small return. That's 6x on a multi-billion-dollar market cap. You don't even see that in meme coins, quite frankly. And Hype, the ticker, is just a mimetic ticker in itself. In a similar way, Emmy is also a very mimetic ticker with Emmy as the Magic Eden mascot. So look, I keep saying this in a bull market like we are today. FDV is truly like thrown out the window. It's all about what's circulating, when are the unlocks, and if the unlocks aren't necessarily going to be in the next year or so, and Magic Eden has done a pretty good job of doing this, then there's a fixed amount of supply. There's going to be a portion that is staked and expecting quests and rewards for additional ME, unclaimed amount, another bonus. And so you have this token that's 500 mil market cap for a cross-chain marketplace that generates more fees and more revenue than most blockchains out there right now that are trading at multi-billion dollar market caps with 10 billion plus FTVs. From a fundamental perspective, the institutions or like the crypto hedge funds, let's call it like the smarter money, or at least like the money that uses some sort of multiple to price these things. I don't know why you really would at this point in time. You can. It's a long story short. And when you look at it from that perspective and you just compare Magic Eden market cap to market cap of things that have revenues, damn right, at $5 it looks free. Is a simple story here. And it's obviously, I was talking to wrong user, which is Frog, a friend of mine. We can share trading notes time and time again. And we both had a very similar conclusion. He's just like, yeah, like this ecosystem, there's just so many reasons for it to do well. Reallocation of ME is going to be a big driver. And I think we've only seen maybe a couple $1 million flow back into the Bitcoin ecosystem. Maybe it's two, maybe it's three,
Yeah.
maybe it's five, but it certainly isn't the 50, 100 mil that I think me and him had this like very optimistic projection about. Once things start to look good, I think if Magic Eden hits $10, $15, $20, there's probably going to be people that are like, all right, I'm going to take some of this off the table, whether it's 2%, 5%, 10%, because their bags are going to start to get really fat. Maybe delayed reaction. I don't know. I'm still very bullish on these assets. I think centralized exchange listings, reducing friction on the L1, ETH NFTs absolutely running up like crazy is a positive catalyst. And at some point, me and Frog agreed that Bitcoin assets, Bitcoin ordinals, Bitcoin meme coins, when you compare them just to anything off Ethereum and Solana, they're just going to look so cheap on a relative basis that there's going to be no reason for people not to see this trade, or this opportunity rather, actually come to life. And how long that takes, I don't know. There's a massive amount of like bullish catalysts ahead for crypto. There's the FTX distributions, which I would say are very much like retail users, retail traders, probably from the Solana ecosystem. And I think because of that, I think the Solana ecosystem has a lot of potential upside ahead of it. But this is a lift for everyone, really. It's $10+ billion that is going to get back into crypto, hopefully. Um, that's not a small chunk of, yeah, it's not a small chunk of capital as a stimulus package. Macro still looks great. We have Bitcoin back at 102,000, and my CT feed is basically silent. Like it was, Bitcoin was at 97K, and everyone's just like, all right, it's over. Like top is in at 100, 102, 100, and then yeah, and what was I saying? Yeah, it's just really quiet. It's just really quiet. And I think that's great. I think it means there's just way more upside that we can have here. I don't know. I'm
I
massively bullish. I'm biased.
I think like the Magic Eden like money starts to flow in because in hindsight it's so easy to say like maybe why it didn't, and it was so easy leading up to it to see how it could potentially. But if we put on the like speculative hat again, like with Magic Eden swap coming out, they're going to incentivize people to provide LP or to interact with said swap specifically in the runes side because the Bitcoin ecosystem has played a huge role in why that drop did what it did. So I think something around the farming around it is what's going to really drive the next kind of push on this. And there's just so many like tools that there and like narratives at the disposal there for that thing to run. So I do think that it's going to need some type of clear incentive that hey, something's happening in the Bitcoin ecosystem for people to really start to turn their assets back over. And it just needs a big green candle for people to start wanting to buy stuff. It's crazy. Once things start ripping, people start deploying capital, which is not the best way to trade, but that's just the reality of it. Is like once things get hot, the attention comes and then it goes parabolic. The timing didn't quite surge the same because I think the thesis made a lot of sense. And but we just didn't see it rip. So I think it's going to have to be more specific around farming some of these trades on Magic Eden, and then we're going to get that like initial big surge, and then a lot of the other people are going to come and start trading. Is the way I'm thinking about it, or the way I respond to some of the ways you were bringing that up. But yeah, I don't know. ETH NFTs ripping is just crazy to me. Like, how is that? Is it new money coming in? Is it wash trading again?
No,
I
I
haven't even
mean,
looked.
look, I think a lot of people clown this whole idea of, oh man, pudgy penguins going to Walmart in the bear market. Oh damn, like doodles are going to McDonald's in a bear market. But these pillars of attention grabbing moments in time in a bear, I think people are coming back now and saying, "Oh, cool! I remember seeing this in McDonald's," or "Oh, I bought one of my kids these pudgy penguins." I don't think any parents. All right, I remember buying this $20 toy. I'm gonna buy a pudgy penguin for $104,000. But I think for those who are in tune with the ecosystem, it does give them a lot more attention maybe from the masses. The funniest thing was I got a message this morning and saying, "Hey, like Doodles flipping node monks right now is massively disappointing for the Bitcoin ecosystem." And look, I got nothing against the Doodles art. I think the Doodles art is awesome.
Shit's whack.
No, it's cool, man. I actually Doodles were one of the first NFT collections where I'm just like, oh, these things are fucking cool. Like I like these little scribbles. I like the pastel background. Like I actually like the art. Now, execution wise, they had a bunch of maybe flaws down the line from doing a whole bunch of things and just fucking around and finding out, similar to Frank D Gods. But of course, they recovered. D Gods now as a meme coin, not so much. Actually, I'm looking at it. It's up 21%. Okay, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. The Solana ecosystem, if we're just looking at it right now, like one day floor price changes. Mad Lots, D Gods, Blinks GG, Cleanosaurs, Solana Monkey Business, A16Z partners, portals. These things all have run double digits at the minimum. And so maybe the ME Stimmy is really paying off for the Solana ecosystem. Maybe the fact that we can't really easily buy things from Sol to Bitcoin yet. Maybe that's one of the friction points. I don't really know what's stopping it. All I know is from a user friction perspective, any additional click, any specific wait times, bridges, swaps, transfers, you name it, are generally friction points for doing, I would say, an impulsive move on a quick basis. So Bitcoin's never been the one that moves. Yeah, Bitcoin's never been the one that like moves first. So we'll see. I think we're gonna start to see the impact in the next 2 or 3 days. Is my take.
Yeah, and I think once it like breaks $10, that's when people will start pulling profit. I think because of the hyper liquid and all those other tokens ripping, I think people are just getting their trades together and like reality's sinking in. Everyone thought it'd just rip, but I do think people are holding it. The volume on it is, there's still a good amount of volume on the Magic Eden token. With staking too, there's just so many factors that like starting to weigh into it, but damn, would it have been nice to get some type of runner narrative that would have really made people pull the trigger to jump over and start trading runes, because that's what we were all anticipating to some degree. But now that it's happening, it makes sense that it's not really just hopium. But yeah, I'm excited to see the team is stacked. They know what they're doing. They know how to play this ecosystem. This isn't their first time around the block. And it is definitely going to have some moments. And I think once it hits some like double digits, people will pull some profits and we'll see some reallocations. But right now, myself, I staked half and I'm holding the other half still. I haven't found a. I was sleeping when it fucking ripped. But
You did
personally, like I'm
a
gonna sell
you did a
some.
4 year stake, didn't you? Sorry, you're
Yeah, it's a nice. But yeah, I like that's just personally, and I don't think I'm like alone in this trade or like alone in this thinking. I don't think too many people are dumping it. So we'll see the rotation. It just didn't happen quick enough. And I don't think people got their trade and like where they wanted to make their exit on and sell a few clips. Maybe that's just me, but I don't think I'm alone there. Have you sold any Magic Eden token?
I refuse to comment. I aped pups. Long story short.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, like there are people doing the narrative that we all hope, but I actually haven't even really been watching it and trading that actively. I've been caught up with a lot of other shit. So I don't know. Maybe I'm alone in this thought. But yeah, let's see. What else has been going on? Magic Eden is a really big one, but we have Arch is continuing to break like transaction records from what I've been seeing on testnet, which is amazing. We have Matt listening. How long are we going to be breaking records on testnet? Is there any update on when mainnet, Matt, if you're listening?
Yeah,
Um,
hopefully we can get Matt or Nick up here. I don't know. They usually double duty and double book spaces and calls at the same time.
they're like, oh yeah.
I see Matt is joining. All right, let's get him up here.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, sorry if you hear some background noise. I'm walking on the streets of New York right now, so no AirPods or anything. So, testnet. When we move off of testnet, I don't know. Maybe when we break testnet.
Try to unmute. My bad. If you can unmute
Oh, sorry
again.
about that.
You're breaking
Yeah,
testnet?
we got to break testnet before we can successfully move on to mainnet. That's the goal. So we're gonna push the absolute limits of what it can handle, trying to find those edge cases, and obviously we've been pretty busy fixing some bugs, and that just isn't limited to Saturn or isn't limited to Arch. It's on all fronts. This is unprecedented, uncharted territory where we're trying new things out, and so sometimes the RPC stuff and indexing stuff fails, or sometimes Saturn smart contract needs some optimizations, and sometimes what's on Arch's side. So getting a lot of these bugs and kinks worked out is very much the point. Keep in mind, this is not like a copy pasted ecosystem. Everything is completely unique and novel. So we're just taking things as they come. But I would say optimistically, January, like conservatively February. And when I say January, probably end of January, but because we still have some audits to do, and there's some other apps that are trying to get deployed as well before we do that. So we want to get their rewrites and opportunities to test some bugs and stuff like that. Yeah, I think the feedback's been phenomenal. I think the people that have tried it have experienced what fast Bitcoin can look like. It doesn't have to necessarily be slow fi anymore. And the ones that haven't tried it, I suggest you do so because we're allocating some decent incentives. So is Saturn. And it's not just Saturn either. It's Funky Bit, which is a cool one. They're going to have a meme coin pump fund type of product, even though right now it's just a cross-chain swap between Base and Bitcoin, which is still, pretty useful if you want to, go back and forth between Bitcoin and USDC, the most widely adopted stablecoin on the planet. Then that's something you can do, and you can off ramp it directly to your account on Coinbase. So pretty interesting stuff. But yeah, what have you guys seen? I mean, if you keep checking back, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it works. So I'm curious to know everyone's experience. And generally speaking, I've been hearing lots of positive things. And whenever we encounter a bug, we try to get to it as quickly as we can.
Yeah, no, I think my experience has been pretty favorable outside of a couple transaction failures, or primarily on Saturn. But I think both Saturn team and you guys are working on some of those bug fixes of sorts. But overall, I think yeah, hopefully there's more to do on the testnet environment. Maybe we get something for Pups Fun going sooner rather than later, and we can have some fun there and see if that all works out as anticipated. I know we briefly teased it a little bit before, but yeah, let's see it come to life on testnet, hopefully sometime soon.
Yeah, no, it's been fucking so fast. It's really quick, which is like the coolest part. Which is like, yeah, I'm enjoying that part of it. Just the user experience is like a massive part of all of this that I think most people like. I think the best example of it's like Phantom Wallet, what they did for Solana. Just like that experience just was so much better than MetaMask and Ethereum that I think without that, I don't know. I just think it played such a big role in the adoption of Solana that most people don't really pay attention to. And I think addressing things like that, like quickness, user experience, is something that a lot of teams are missing. They're going too technical and going down that route, which is obviously very needed. But when you can marry the two, I think that's when some of these really special moments happen and a lot of adoption starts to occur. So I think that part's been super dope. But we got Nick, dude. How's everything been at the government?
My earpiece isn't working exactly, so I'm not getting the live stream into the next stuff that's going to be coming from there.
Well,
But
you helped Trump deploy $5 more million into ETH, I think last night, right?
I think it was something like that. Yeah, I don't get into the details. I let my people handle it with Trump. He has to go through them first. It's pretty great. Do you guys want to hear some numbers actually? Because I've got some pretty sick numbers about
Nice. Politically
testnet.
changed. Yeah, nice segue. See, he's perfect. Let's hear it.
Let's go. Let's go. So as you guys know, we have 26 major validator nodes who are going to be launching with us on mainnet, who've been working with us for a while, 100 plus apps who are in the process of building on us. But for testnet launch in the last 2 weeks, man, we've gotten at least, it's basically close to 300,000 on-chain transactions and 173,000 wallets connected to our program. When I checked our monthly active users, so this includes both testnet and our points program, since obviously it's only been 2 weeks of testnet, but we're looking at 112,000 monthly active users and at least 12,000 daily active ones. So it's been rocking, especially for a testnet product. So it's been awesome to see.
Love to see that. I guess going back to Mr. Trump, his son Barron has been tweeting a lot about world peace for some reason. I don't know if my chat with Martin Shkreli found its way to Barron over there, but
I'll rename him Baron Pups Pump.
Barron,
Yeah,
let's see that happen. But Nick, obviously very excited about one, you guys working with a ton of validators to decentralize the mainnet launch. And I think everyone's just waiting patiently for what you guys bring to the table. I know we have DOS on the stage.
Or DOS.
Or DOS.
No, dude. Shit's dope.
Yeah, I've heard of this before. If you want to chat about what DOS really is, just looking at your bio, it's the first operating system inscribed on Bitcoin. It's interesting because one, ordinals gave us the ability to inscribe data on chain, and if you can index all that data, you can basically put together any sort of program file with recursion to basically render a web page. In theory, you could use Bitcoin, obviously very expensive data availability layer, but you really wanted to make a website that's properly decentralized and indexed forever, you could, in theory, do that. But you guys have chosen to inscribe an operating system. Is that right?
Yeah, you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. Thank you for that beautiful little summary there. But yeah, it's an interesting point in time, a golden age of distributed computing, we feel, where people can now store data in a persistent place that's accessible to everyone else for the rest of the time. But of course, as we saw in the very early days of computing, we need some level of technical experience to be able to interact with a node. Otherwise, we have to use websites like Ordos.io to browse what's inscribed. So the idea with Ordos is how can we abstract away some of that complexity so that new users can come and start interacting with content on Bitcoin in a way that they're slightly more familiar with. And so what we have is effectively a very simplistic, old school nostalgic operating system that has a somewhat intuitive layout, that will run like a normal computer that you might expect to play with back in the day, filled with nostalgic content, but also content made by awesome creators in the space, all on hundreds of ordinals that are recursively linked together to provide this censorship-resistant, immutable OS that is just there for everyone to use. So it's an interesting proof of concept, but it's something we've been doing some rather clever development with. We're about to introduce something called WebRTC in Pwrd.js, effectively allowing peer-to-peer communication through ordinals. Now, admittedly, this will run on our own modified ord clients until we can convince Casey to make any necessary changes to ord. But we did have a few interesting conversations over the course of our Basel. So a proof of concept is currently being put together that we can demonstrate to space that will show all sorts of fun stuff, because we do believe that ordinal theory can be used in very clever ways. And I do believe that all it takes is some new killer app, some new way of using this technology that will appeal to the normie corners, that's going to hit them. I may not have believed in Bitcoin as a store of value, but I will buy some Bitcoin if it's one of those things. And we saw that in even NFTs. And I think we are still to see that with Bitcoin. And through and through, I'm a gamer partner with NVIDIA. We've been building a games console install for a few years, something that people who may have seen me at various conferences have probably already had a chance to play around with over the past couple of years. But nonetheless, this is very much a Bitcoin-centric device that we're bringing to market. And so with that, being able to couple it with a Bitcoin OS, so to speak, not the only OS a device will run, but certainly an application that will abstract away a lot of complexity and allow people to inscribe and interact with a node as though they have one set up themselves without any of the fiddly need for command line user interface. In a nutshell, that's what we're building. It's all on chain at the moment. Simply, you can check the ordinals out and go to btc.ordos.io and it'll take you directly to the inscription that you can start messing around with. Everything from a Game Boy Color to a PlayStation emulator and Blender Photoshop clones and everything in between. It's a lot of fun.
Love to see
Yeah,
it.
it's super cool. Yeah, I've been chatting with Snoop about this. He's been working on it for quite some time.
So it is
And
Snoop
it's,
Toshi. All right, it is interesting. Got it.
No, some other guy eating crumpets.
There's at least two of us out there.
Dude, there's Snoop. One of them smokes a bunch of weed, and the other one is working on an operating system. I get them confused all the time. They look fucking identical. But no, it's really cool because like with the progression of like parent-child and delegate and a lot of these like being able to call content from an inscription, there's a lot of movement. I've been working on something as well, not an operating system, but something really similar, just clever way to utilizing ordinals being able to communicate with one another. I'll chat more on that at another time, but it's really cool and like clever to break down what this is, right? And some of the fundamentally, while we're all here in a decentralized way, is storing data, but accessing it is typically from a pretty centralized approach. And I think from just that standpoint alone, if you're nerdy enough and really like the fact that it's stored decentralized, you need to be able to access that stuff in a decentralized way as well. And I think there's a lot of cool teams. I think what Snoop and the Ordos team is building is super cool, clever, and just highlighting and showcasing the strength of recursiveness and a lot of really cool stuff. So yeah, I've messed around with it back. I need to check it out. I'm sure there's some really cool updates lately, but I was checking it out a while ago and it's really clever and really cool stuff. But Nick, I saw you had your hand go up.
Yeah, I just had a real quick question for Snoop. I know that we were on Spaces last week, and you were asking a bit about metadata and how we're going to be able to use Arch with that. Matt's here and might be able to answer that question if you haven't already gotten it answered. So just wanted to float that out there.
Thank you very much. Very good of you for remembering. It's a conversation we had quite some time ago, and it was a very small question at the end of a very long space. So appreciate it. So my question really was, in a perfect world, the lack of on-chain metadata always annoys me. I want to make things easy for people to be able to find. I want to be able to self-populate folders, much like your My Documents folder has a My Pictures. I want us to have an our ordinals and an our images folder. And to be able to index that and populate that and have that showing with the latest inscriptions constantly at the top, we're going to need a little extra metadata there. I know there are a few options out there, and I'm curious if that's something you've been dabbling with, something that we'll be able to look to Arch Network to be able to help make things easier to index, make things easier to find in the grand scheme of things.
Matt, you got this one? We'll get back to you if Matt doesn't here, but definitely want to make sure you get that answer question and we can work together on this stuff too. The short answer is that there are definitely going to be a lot of things that this allows for that didn't exist before. And we definitely need the infra. Lifos is working with us on some cool infra projects that are going to be enabled by Arch. He's obviously one of those builders who, like you, recognizes whenever there's a need of space and wherever there's a need on the space and jumps on it, we'll make sure to get back to you. I think that could be really fun working on something together if it doesn't already exist.
Awesome. I would say if you got Leaf on the case, that's music to my ears. I'd also say the Open Ordinals API is one that is worth checking out. The Tiny Vikings team have been working together. It's something I've personally been exploring that is great for that. Nothing to do with the team, not a shell or anywhere, just pointing out some good tech when I see it. So definitely have a butcher's at that if it's not something you're looking at, but if it is, I'd love to find out what you're looking at.
This is the really nerdy stuff that a lot of us in the space who are building really love, but it does have really practical values and effects that, for instance, for our points program, we wanted to reward certain ordinals holders. And we were having a lot of trouble finding an API that was very effective at that. And we eventually did, I think, settle on the Magic Eden API, not to FUD them at all. They do a lot of great work, but there were some issues with that and we had to do some workarounds. And just having more options in this space is definitely going to be critical. And I do know for a fact that any sort of transactions are processed at that kind of lightning fast speed through the Arch execution side, through the Arch network side, we will definitely have the capacity. If it's the kind of thing that can be built on Ethereum and Solana, it can also be built on Bitcoin with Arch. The question, of course, is like to what level of granularity you can get directly on the base layer, and we'll figure that out, hopefully together.
Am I understanding the question correctly, Snoop? Is you're looking for a solution to index and provide data at a more efficient rate than like current APIs that are like running indexers and putting compute towards it?
Yeah, in effect. I'd like to know automatically what's a PNG, what's a WebP, what's an index, what's a 3D model, what's a this, what's a that, what's the other, without having to do any sort of manual checking.
Got it. I think I'm not sure if Maestro actually has something along those lines. I know they have specific APIs that allow you to see what is in the mempool and what transactions are going runes related and such, but not sure if anyone has ever built an API that would segment the data and slice it in the way that you're looking at it. I am curious, like, what do you see individuals using this for? It's quite a novel exercise. And is any of this kind of related to what Trevor and the Pizza Pets team were doing? I'm not sure if you guys reshared something that they were doing or they reshared something that you were doing.
Yeah, no connection with
I
Pizza Pets at all.
Yeah,
I'm not a holder.
got it.
I'm not a Pizza Pets holder. I probably am a Pizza Pets holder as of today, but I'm not a Ninjas holder. A fan of what they're doing, but ultimately this is an ordinal agnostic piece of technology. You can install any ordinal you want, and so we basically just take the flavor of the ordinal of the day and show people how they can install that. Now, the direction for this thing is actually quite interesting because we developed a few novel tools specifically for creators. We won't reveal links to them yet, but certainly things that make life cheaper and easier for creators to put content on chain, primarily. But if you imagine this being rolled out more as a standalone downloadable, something that someone who is coming into Bitcoin for the first time can download an exe, so to speak, install it on their computer, have a node set up and all clients synced, and be able to interface with a node without any of the complexity that they currently need to know, which we all experienced firsthand when everyone rushed to try and set up a node and etch a rune over the hardware. So it's that complexity that we're looking to extract away with this application that is effectively a standalone app that looks like an OS, but for all intents and purposes allows you to put data on and access existing data on Bitcoin with a click of a few buttons without all of that technical knowledge that one would need to set up an alt client at the moment.
That sounds really cool. I'm glad someone is exploring this idea for just building something with Bitcoin data availability for permanence. Yeah, this is awesome. Appreciate you guys tackling this and kind of testing. It really is like pushing the boundary of what we originally thought Bitcoin could be good for. But look, who knew that we can create an operating system and an internet computer at the end of the day after something as silly as JPEGs came onto chain, right?
It starts with JPEGs, but it's code, ultimately. And what Ordinals does that no other chain will do well is the ability to run executable code. And as the Rushstar loves to say, the internet is powered by JavaScript. The Ordos operating system is an application that will run on a piece of technology I'm releasing on a physical gaming device, a piece of hardware. It's good. The dev kits are getting shipped in January to select developers. And this is something we've been building in stealth with NVIDIA. We've been NVIDIA's only partner since 2017 building this piece of technology. And it's a powerful little gadget. It's something that we're really quite excited to get into the hands of a lot of Bitcoin devs, because up until now, it's really only been in the hands of XR and AI devs. So this OS is an introduction to a greater play of an ecosystem, and one in which we feel we can leverage as becoming a catalyst to onboard a bunch of normies into getting into this space.
I think when you speak to people like Snoop or Lifo or some of the other great devs we have in this space, and I'm going to speak a little bit from the writing perspective as someone who is creative in some level because of that, you understand that it's just hearing you, man. You understand that code is creative, right? It is a creative art form of its own. And sometimes I think people wonder, oh, why build on Bitcoin? Why have ordinals when you have NFTs somewhere else? Why build something that's familiar in some level, but also very different? And so because there are multiple levels to this, and to have it on Bitcoin is an artistic endeavor and statement that exists outside of what exists on other chains, even if like to the end user who maybe is just doing it as a speculative trade bet, some of them might see it as, oh, I'm only going to do it just because this one seems like it'll go up faster. But for true builders, I think you choose your arena not just because of the opportunity, even though I think it's very clear that the Bitcoin space is huge with opportunity, but you create it because there's opportunity matched with a certain ethos statement, a certain value, a certain creativity, a certain artistic expression of how you want to live the world. At least that's how
I'm passionately interrupting. I think like a good example of that is like the Michelangelo painting, right? Is like paintings were cool. Like people are painting on walls all the time, but he took that same approach and did it on a ceiling. And that was the artistic expression that has not only led it to be one of the best canvases and memorable pieces, but the difficulty and the novelty that he went through putting it on the ceiling is like potentially an example of what you're getting at. And I think 100% like that artistic expression through code is going to start getting unpacked more and more, especially with the advent and the expedited process of ChatGPT, like eliminating the redundancy and kind of limitations of people able to do it. And putting stuff on Bitcoin is just incredibly dope. It's very difficult, which makes it painting on the wall is cool, but the painting on the ceiling is incredible. And in that example, Bitcoin being the ceiling, it's difficult to do, but people that are doing some of these kind of more expressive things, I think the market really does appreciate the first of things in this whole world. I think that is a really cool point that you're bringing up, Nick. And I think it's cool to hear because
that's a great metaphor. I love it.
But yeah, go ahead. I just was like thinking of like maybe a simpler non-technical example to maybe highlight what you're saying.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect example. And I don't know if Snoop has anything to add about this, but yeah, I think that was a great interjection. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fascinating because to me, what I always find so amazing, I've come from a sort of the hard bleeding edge hardware tech space in the past 15 years where very few people care about it. Even fewer content creators care about it. And so to come into a space like the Web3 space where, again, it's bleeding edge technology, but it's surrounded by content creators willing to create and learn and adopt. I've very rarely seen that. I've very rarely seen that in my lifetime in technology. And that's one of the things why I was so attracted as a content goer, as a hardware creator, as an innovator. You always need great content. And so having that many amazing content creators in one space, all passionate about learning and adopting these mediums, to me, that's one of the most exciting things I've seen in technology, full stop. And so the whole idea of Bitcoin, yeah, Bitcoin's a wonderful thing. It's a hard drive that's going to last longer than any of us will ever live. And so it's still back-end infrastructure, all back-end infrastructure. And people don't care about back-end infrastructure. You ask any Call of Duty player what multiplayer infrastructure Activision's using, they're not going to be able to tell you, but they're still going to enjoy playing Call of Duty. And I think this is a big part where we as a space get hyper-focused, is talking so much about the infrastructure, whereas what actually matters is the end user experience that's going to onboard the next 5, 10, 50, 100 million users. And so to me, what we do again at Ordos is we abstract away that need of knowledge. We support more than Bitcoin. You can inscribe stuff on Fractal. You can inscribe stuff on any chain that supports an Ord client. And all we do is treat that as a different kind of a hard drive. If you want to store stuff on the B drive, so to speak, on the expensive, persistent, will last the rest of time hard drive, fantastic. It's going to cost a bit of money. If you want to store that on the Fractal F hard drive, or the F drive, if you will, in your computer, go for it. It might not last the rest of time, but it's going to cost you an absolute fraction to store it there. To us, these are just different back-end pieces of technology that we, as an operating system, can abstract away and provide the user. Does the user care where this data is being drawn from? It depends what the data is. If it's fine art, probably they want it coming from Bitcoin. If it's some degen game that may only last a week or two, let it come from some other chain that's not going to pollute Bitcoin with ungodly amounts of data. So to me, this is all just fun back-end infrastructure. And as this space continues to evolve and we can keep hiding the complexities and giving users something that they're familiar with, that they want to spend money on, that they find interesting and new and cool, that's the thing that's going to start onboarding new people, because the world's seen pictures on chain. They don't care about IPFS and parent-child and vocabulary. They don't understand what those words mean. The word ordinal makes people feel stupid just alone. It needs a rebranding to fucking Bitcoin NFTs, unfortunately. But the reality is that's happening at the moment. And so what people are going to need, again, much like the early 2021 days, it wasn't Yuga, it wasn't the PFPs, it wasn't the Bored Apes that brought in the masses of people. It was the individual artists creating cool new things no one had seen before. And so that's what this space needs in abundance. And when we get enough of them, we're going to see new people coming from all over just to come into Bitcoin just because it's the thing. I don't know. I'm a big believer in innovation and experimentation and trying new stuff and pushing boundaries. And I think Ordos with that is one of the coolest ordinals ever to grace Bitcoin at this moment in time.
No doubt. One thing, because like you have shown me this, and but one thing you mentioned was NVIDIA. And I'm just curious of like where that comes into play here. I don't know if I was, or you mentioned something about that.
No, it's very fair. No, you probably need a bit of context. So I've been, again, dabbling in hardware for a long time. My claim to fame was inventing the first self-contained virtual reality headset back in about 2012 under the name of Game Face Labs. And you can check the sort of wiki page to see all of the different iterations and prototypes we built with companies like Mattel and Valve and Samsung over the years. But effectively, we did a lot of innovation a long time before anyone else was building these self-contained headsets. And it was due to that innovation that I managed to get in a room with Jensen, with the CEO of NVIDIA, and convince him to give me a reference design to a tablet called the Shield tablet back in the day. And with that, reassemble that with some cool engineers, a guy called Geo Hot, George Hotz, I brought on board to come and work with us on some very clever drivers and some ex-Sony Ericsson engineers. And we built this thing that was very reminiscent of the Apple Vision Pro, a self-contained headset with a decoupled battery with finger tracking. And again, if you've seen me, you've probably seen the video of the founder of Oculus playing with this thing a few years before they released the Quest. And we did a lot of prototyping and showcasing every year at CES or at GDC or at E3, on all of them. And we'd always take feedback from developers. And ultimately, the feedback was the headsets weighed too much. Years passed, lots of iterations of headsets were built. Our partnership with NVIDIA was formed officially in 2017 after about 3 years of R&D working with them, and that's a partnership that we still have to date. So it's the only company with a license to build a consumer-grade product for XR, for AI, using their chipsets known as Tegra, using Jetson. Chips reserved primarily for embedded machines and driverless cars, very powerful AI chips. And so what started as a self-contained VR headset evolved gradually into this, what I now call a display-agnostic wearable, a very small form factor desktop class PC that can be used in a number of ways. Effectively, a desktop node, all client ASIC mining device, but it's half a kilo. It runs on 15 watts. It runs an Android operating system or a Linux operating system if you prefer. This thing can be plugged into a TV, a monitor, a mouse, a keyboard, a gamepad, used like a traditional games console, or can be plugged into any OpenXR VR or AR headset. It has hot swappable batteries. So it's taken 12 years of R&D to figure out the pain points for XR primarily, as well as for other verticals. AI, obviously, given the power of this AI chip that we and we alone have access to inside one of these consumer products, is a big vertical that we focus on. And now Web3, of course, with the abundance of content creators here and our factories tool, we want to make sure the developers that are getting the developer kits are able to build really cool content that can be on the consumer product and launch next year. So the Ordos is an application that will sit on top of this hardware, this developer kit we're about to ship. And when you run that application, that will allow you to interface directly with everything on chain. It's our window into Bitcoin, if you will, for our native device. But of course, it will run on any device with a browser. You don't need to have our hardware to have it. But if you do have our hardware, it will work in an extra nice way. So yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming, and a lot of people here have seen iterations of this hardware over the past few years. I mean, we've been showing various prototypes off since sort of 22, I think 2021, and so we tend to have a new VR or AR headset plugged into a new prototype at every event we go to. So I'm sure there's some people here on stage have had a chance to play around with it. So yeah, very long answer to give you a bit of context as to NVIDIA, to our relationship with them, and how we've been building with them for so long now.
Dope. So this will work with NVIDIA headsets? Is that the TLDR?
NVIDIA doesn't make headsets. NVIDIA no longer makes consumer products. Jensen very cleverly realized back in about 2014, 2015, he realized that the focus and the future for NVIDIA was going to be AI. It wasn't going to be XR, it wasn't going to be consumer gaming. He realized that Xbox was no longer using their chips, that the majority of gamers getting their GPUs, but ultimately they needed something that was going to put them ahead. And it was literally back 2014, 15, and Jensen knew it was going to be AI. And so he started shit canning everybody at NVIDIA. If you weren't already in automotive or AI, you were getting pushed over there. And I was quite fortunate because I'd already done a few years of R&D with them. I'd have met him a few times and spent him a lot of prototypes that he really likes, and had then convinced his head of developer relations, a gentleman by the name of Bill Reebok, to join as my co-founder. And so Bill was the head of DevRel for NVIDIA for 15 years and was PlayStation before that, and was bloody Atari before that. The dude's is the game space as far as I'm concerned. And so to have him in the terms of what we consider the Shield TV and these small little prototype things they had pushed to market. And so the license we managed to get with them gives us access to some tremendous stuff they started building for internal products that they never ended up releasing. And so that has been a wonderful piece of tech to have. We literally have the Android base port for sort of the majority of the Shield products that have been created. And I think we're the only partner NVIDIA has ever granted that access to. And so with that, we started building something that would be effectively switch to Shield 2.0, if you will, but just focus more on XR, focus more on emerging technologies. And what started as self-contained headsets evolved into becoming a display agnostic computer. So effectively just a really small form factor wearable that you can plug a Vive, an Index, Tilt 5, any number of VR or AR headsets that support open standards. Or if you don't care about VR or AR, you just fucking plug it into a TV or a monitor and use it with a gamepad or a mouse or keyboard or a TV remote. It's just a powerful little Android set-top box. World's most powerful Android device, really, and can do a whole bunch of stuff with it.
Interesting. Lots of lore there. That's cool. Yeah, I was just trying to because that's like a obviously NVIDIA being NVIDIA. That's a super interesting, cool not only story, but like partnership that you're working with. So that's incredible. I saw the same thing Farmer Joe saw with the Pizza Ninja or the Pizza Pets or whatever. And I think the games being stored on is super cool. I think it's all really cool stuff. And yeah, dude, looking forward to seeing it continue to evolve.
Thank you. What we are hoping for over the next week or two is to be able to introduce peer-to-peer. So effectively, you could go to Ordos and you'll be able to open up a chat and you'll be able to have a voice, video, text, file sharing, screen sharing chat with someone else with no centralized server, ordinal to ordinal, which I think would be really bloody cool because that opens up a whole new world of possibilities on ordinals, finding a way to let them communicate to one another in a peer-to-peer fashion. So that's been a huge amount of work, but I think we're 95% there. And so fingers crossed over the next few days, we're going to be able to show something pretty cool off. And look, it's only going to be cool to a handful of people in the space, but I'm hoping those handful of people are going to understand it for what it is and be able to build some really interesting stuff with it.
No, that's so peer-to-peer communication from wallet address to wallet address?
From ordinal to ordinal, not even wallet address to wallet address. Effectively, two of you would visit the same ordinal, and one would type in one room name, the other would create one room.
So like bitmaps, maybe? Or is
I know nothing about bitmaps. To my own, I really fucking should find out about bitmaps, but perhaps, but I don't know enough about bitmaps to say one way or another.
I think that's something you should check out because I think there's a lot of synergy because bitmaps was effectively trying to create a new bitmap, every block being ownership. And if you go into that block, the owner can do whatever they want with it, effectively giving a finite amount of real estate in a digital world, which is what is the win here. Because you can go forever in the digital world, but if there's no limitation, people don't know which direction to go. There's a million metaverses, a million this, but giving the limitation of it, and that's what allows people to build consistent worlds over this data structure. And if you own a block in one, you own the same block in the other, is the roughly horrible explanation of like my understanding of it. But I do believe it lends itself really cool to the concept that you're building, is specifically around the gaming and stuff. But yeah, that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
I'll check it out. I did see a tweet yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, from Batoshi saying that he just uses Ordos exclusively to mess with his bitmaps now. So we put his Atlas app inside Ordos. So people who do enjoy bitmaps are able to do whatever you can do in a bitmap within Ordos already. But I think this Peer.js, effectively, this WebRTC is an innovation I do not believe is on chain yet, because I think it is real-time communication, effectively. Basically, chats that you can have without Google or Facebook or fucking anyone else listening in. So fingers crossed we'll be able to roll that out soon enough. And if it actually works, and in case he thinks it's cool enough, he could even add it to Ord, and then anyone could just go to an ordinal on Ord.io and then talk to someone else if they both know a secret word. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot to unlock with on-chain communication. I think that's, especially for the nerdy people, that is really dope. But yeah, how else you were in Miami, right? What was the takeaways there? Was there any cool alpha being shared? It was
such a good event. I got to say, the Magic Eden Villa was absolutely epic. A big part of Ordinals, and don't get me wrong, I fucking love it. And I go there specifically because of the good old circle jerk of the same 50 to 100 people all patting each other on the back saying, hey, we're early. It's fun. But I went to the Magic Eden Villa and I met some really cool people from other chains that I'd never met before. And it was, I'm not going to say it was more fun than DJing with the usual suspects, but it was just cool to be able to meet all of these new people that were equally as passionate about, admittedly, other chains, but just new opportunities to orange pill a whole bunch of new people. And I don't know, just met some really cool people. Had a really, one of the better times of the event, I think, was the final GN Magic Eden party. Got to meet Bottleton, Gringo, Hoddle, I met to meet. Just sleepless, spent a huge amount of time with him. I spent fucking just loads of great people. Choose Rich, who I discovered actually a fucking
Sleepless
software developer.
the artist?
Yeah, dude. There was so many amazing people. But again, Choose Rich, the dude, I really did not expect. Fucking software developer. I've really nerded out with him for a decent amount of time. I was quite shocked with his technical knowledge. Yeah, it was just, overall, it was just like a great little party. It wasn't too rammed, open bar, and food was insane. Just everything about the Magic Eden Villa, I think, ticked the box. So hats off to Magic Eden for pulling that off. Otherwise, inscribing was great. I gave a couple of talks. one at Bit Basil, one at Inscribing Miami, both inadvertently talking about the Orzos. I don't think that's what I was meant to talk about, but that's what I did talk about. And yeah, it was overall fun. Great. Troy stayed with me for a few nights, both before and after the event. You can imagine how that went. Yeah, it was great. NFT supply shout out, an absolute fucking rockstar. I managed to get a few dev kits and bits and pieces shipped in, so they're waiting for me in Miami. So I had new harbor to show off to everyone by the time I arrived. It was just lovely seeing everyone. I can't wait for the next one. Got to chill with Casey. That was fun. Got to have a little catch up. Found out he loves Ordos, and yeah, overall just happy with the event. Is a lot of work, but a wonderful time. And they always are, these events. If people don't go to them, you're missing out. You really do need to start turning up to these things.
Love to hear it. Farmer, what else we got? Or we want to start wrapping this puppy up?
Yeah, maybe if anyone else wants to speak, can come up on stage to just banter a little bit. We can banter for another 5 or 10 minutes or so, and then let's try and wrap this up. And yeah, I wasn't there in Miami. Unfortunately, I wasn't there at Bitcoin Mania as well, although I was scheduled to speak with Pwrd, with Leonidas, and others. Unfortunately, it was supposed to be 2:30 a.m., so I stayed up, and then it was 3:30 a.m., and I stayed up, and then it was 4:30 a.m., and then I really just needed to sleep. Ended up not making my panel, unfortunately. Yeah, even if I made the panel, I think I would have been happy at that point.
That's even better, but wait, I didn't know that. That's
yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone. I haven't even seen this on CT that I missed the panel with. I was actually looking forward to it, but yeah, things were shifting just because they were delayed from the start, and then the panels, of course, as every conference goes, it tends to be 15, 20 minutes late. But yeah, sucks that the time zone. I originally thought that the times were, for some reason, I thought it was going to be like right in the morning or something like that, or like right in the afternoon, but. Yeah, middle of the night, 4:30 a.m. No bueno for me. Yeah, otherwise, yeah, I can't say there's that much going on CT recently. Bonzi, I don't know if you're playing the meme game, but it feels like there's not a lot of memes that seem to have popped up and performed well more recently. It feels like the ones that have attracted a good foundation are performing very well. There's XBT or AI XBT, which was like a $20 million coin. I think right now it's at $250 million. It's a base AI coin. Everyone loves this CT AI bot. It's become basically, I think, a top 20 influencer by default. Pretty impressive. It seems to know just so much about narratives, about who's doing what, it's just an information monster, and it doesn't necessarily lean any particular way per se, but definitely worth a follow. One of my favorite accounts on CT.
Which one is it?
It's called the AI XBT. It's got about this account had 3,000 or 4,000 followers when I first followed it. It's up to 115K.
The Pink Pepe one?
Yeah, the Pink Pepe with the hoodie that looks a little bit devious and evil. Yeah, one of the best CT accounts, in my opinion, to track certain things. And it's also been quite bullish ordinals and runes. So, hey, look, like maybe we aren't wrong. We're just a little too early.
Now we know why you really like it. Now we know it's like, fuck yeah. Think bull posted pups.
I've been asking it some questions about pups, and I'm like, so like, what do you think? Like the lending volumes are like the lending volumes are pretty wild, and it's just yes, the lending volumes. Well, they're good right now. Let's talk in the next 30 days to see if it holds. And I'm just like, bro, I just asked you, are you bullish or not? Don't comment on the lending volumes. But yeah, Liquidium is obviously loving pups because the last 7 days, I think it hit 35 BTC in total loans, which is pretty crazy. The nearest comparable, I think, would be like Dog at 6 BTC.
Yeah, no, that metric is like really slept on, is like how much volume and how secure that price is and how willing people are. And it's like just a great way to earn yield on native Bitcoin. That's what I've been exploring lately a lot, is I just not only don't have the time, but find myself over trading and just been looking into staking and just earning yield, and been exploring Athena very deeply and doing a lot of stuff on Beefy protocol. And then on Bitcoin, there's not too many options, and like wrapping it gets you into this whole, I don't know, it just doesn't, to me, it just doesn't feel right, and it just feels a little bit scary to do with a good amount of Bitcoin.
Yeah, definitely agree. There's a lot of ways that you can like generate yield on top of your Bitcoin these days. There's like these things called morpho vaults, Pendle, staking, restaking type of games for
Wait, what is
coins.
it?
Pendle is one that
Pendle? I haven't
yeah,
heard of that.
it allows you to sell your forward yield. So what you can do is basically create like a particular like you basically stake your Bitcoin for something, and maybe there's like an implied yield of like 3 or 4 or 5%. And what you do is there's someone that basically buys the forward yield component off of you. So in theory, you could keep just cycling out and selling your forward yield and having that yield immediately. I look, I gotta do a little bit more research on Pendle, but long story short, it's like selling your interest, your forward interest.
Sounds very degen. I'm fucking in, dude. Selling,
You know
leveraging,
what?
over leveraging yourself
It's
sounds just.
not
I'm in.
really like degenerate as much, right? Like we have this in traditional capital markets where you can sell your bond or rehypothecate the forward interest. So it's just creating another financial, excuse me, it's just creating like another financial derivative. Morpho, I can't remember what Morpho is, but
So
I
it looks like Morpho is it's in the ecosystem of Pendle.
yeah, something like that. I gotta do more research on EVM DeFi, but Morpho is I think more similar to Aave. Yeah, open infrastructure, on-chain loans, total deposits 4.7 billion, borrow is 1.6 billion, and you got to use like Morpho vaults that allow you to deposit wrapped Bitcoin. Like you're still dealing with wrapped Bitcoin, of course, but yeah, there's a lot of ways to like generate yield these days. It's not uncommon to what happens. Like I'm just looking right now, Gauntlet WBTC Core 8 point. Yeah, like your base rate is 0.94 from real yield, and then you got the Morpho token yield, which juices it another 8% to get you a 9% rate. Then there's like Pendle, WBTC. The curator of this is like Mev Capital. I don't know. Like I would say the EVM DeFi ecosystem is genuinely like pretty
strong.
Pretty strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Solana doesn't necessarily have a vibrant ecosystem like this, but I think it'll come very quickly. I'm sure there's going to be something that is like Pendle, that is like Morpho coming onto Solana very soon.
Yeah, I forget. It's really notable billionaire. I forget the name, but Bitcoin is where you invest your money. Like Ethereum's where you put your money to work to earn yield, and Solana is where you meme coin. And it's still fundamentally, it was very true. I was like, damn, but I do see a lot of DeFi primitives that get proven on Ethereum move to Solana, but I do see Ethereum EVM world really, especially what we saw with Hyperliquid, some of the volume that they were doing. And I'm really like how Athena's approaching their delta neutral yield is, I don't know, I'm very convinced. And I think it's such a clever way to earn yield for holders. But then you have Jito. Like right now, I've just been really deep in staking Jito, restaking Jito, and then fucking Athena, and then just looking at some like combinations and automation on Beefy, because man, do I overtrade myself. Like I got so far, I was trading fucking shitcoins on XRP, and that's when I knew, bro, you got to chill the fuck out.
The crazy part is Solana's DeFi ecosystem is so slept on. ETH people are happy with 9% or like 12% or like 20%.
That's interesting. Is that yield for ants, dude?
Yeah, it's yield for ants. Like JLP. Okay, this is going to sound extremely degenerate, but JLP is Jupiter's liquidity pool for their perp decks, and it generates real fees off of perp trading. So it's like the GMX style vault. In that you have 46% Sol, 10% ETH, 12% BTC, and the rest is stables between USDC and USDT. So it's a diversified vault, obviously P&L dependent, of course. But like the APY of the JLP pool is 89.58%. I mean, that's not a small chunk of, and look, like you can, here's where it gets even more exotic. It's like You can buy
It
the
gets
JL.
more exotic.
Yeah, look, but you can buy the JLP token and then borrow against it, Luke.
The
Borrow against
Ponzi gets deeper, bro. I love the deep ones.
I'm telling you. And the great part about the Solana ecosystem, and I'm like not like a crazy Solana bull, but I just love the fact that it's fast and it's efficient and it's relatively cheap. But when you have high throughput, high transactions, these small transactions that happen, these micro transactions, you have a lot of them, which generates actual yield. Whereas like on Ethereum, Solana, despite being a smaller blockchain, despite having a lower amount of assets on chain, I think it still does more DEX trading volume than Ethereum in general. And I think the beauty of it is you're able to have these like high frequency traders or these like scalp traders do trades back and forth. And so when you have the ability to have high throughput, you're basically clipping that 0.25%.
That's why I'm so
over and
bullish
over
on
again.
Cheeto, dude. Like how they're able to pull all that MEV.
For sure.
Like
Yeah.
Cheeto's like, bro, that was one of the better things that I didn't research too deeply when I just luckily just threw all my soul into that and then checked it. And it's just constantly rebasing. And it's like, whoa, this is, and understanding where the yield comes from. It just, I'm reminiscent of like when I was doing stuff on Avalanche and Wonderland and how like, I still have no idea what I'm doing to some degree. Let's be real. But when I was doing it back then on Wonderland and Avalanche, like just not knowing what the, like now with these really sound and proven ways to earn this type of yield, like it's crazy how much it can disrupt the financial industry, and the people that are risking it and doing it now are really seeing it. But I don't know, that's what I've been on, is just doing research on my downtime, trying to find these, because I've just been playing myself on over trading a lot of these and just putting myself in so many small positions that I don't manage them super well. And it's just fuck all of that. I'm just going to take the assets that I know will run, allow me to earn something significant off of them, and then only deploy. Like I had a chat with Businessman and changed my strategy of just playing with bigger sums of numbers. So I put more conviction behind my trades because I was spraying and praying, and luckily some of them worked out, but managing that many positions just got fucking, it just, yeah. I have so much dust in my wallets now. It's like, Jesus Christ, especially on my Solana bot wallets. Wow. There's a lot of tokens there that I just bought, saw them run, and didn't really exit them properly. But yeah, just something that's been top of mind for me that I've been managing later when I get done with work and shit like that. It's been really interesting seeing all these different ecosystems. Arbitrum, like with Hyper, I opened some crazy longs on that a few months ago, and I went and checked it and got a few points there, which was pretty cool. I guess what I'm getting at is there is so many ecosystems thriving right now that it's there's no reason to become a super maxi of any of them, except if it's Bitcoin for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's a cool time, man. I'm really learning a lot and figuring out what kind of protocols are gonna stand around for the long term.
100%. Yeah, on that note, let's wrap up the show. It's been a good one to go over basically everything that we've missed, maybe, or just topics of interest for everybody. I appreciate everyone that kind of got up on stage, Ordos, Snoop Toshi, whoever you are, whoever you, I would say, want to be today. I appreciate you coming up and sharing how basically anybody can use Bitcoin as a data availability layer to build permanent whatever they really want to. And it's not just limited to JPEGs and permanent tokens, websites, operating systems, games, you name it. It's all possible. It can get pretty expensive, of course, but yeah. Otherwise, I guess we're just all kind of sitting patiently. Bitcoin's at 102-ish. ME is performing very well. Ordinals are having a nice green day. Bitcoin puppets are up 28%. Node monks up 6%. Puppets are up it, and the only thing missing here is pups goes ups, but maybe that comes soon. On that note, thanks for joining, everybody. Appreciate you guys, and Bunsy with the outro track out here.
Keep pumping this shit. We're over 100K. 100K is FUD. Win 0.2 $1 million per Bitcoin. Go over leverage all your positions, earn all the yield. This is your time. Don't fuck it up.